Hi everyone, it's that time again when you might be starting to think about your year end. The year end process itself is straightforward. It's a simple wizard that includes a few options. However, before this, there's the preparation stage, ensuring you've posted everything, and of course, it involves running reports. But do you understand your reports and also the opportunities that you have to develop them? Ensuring they're accurate, but also that they provide you with the correct level of detail. Throughout January and February, we're running a series of live webinars to help develop your knowledge and understanding of the management reports available in Sage 50 accounts. We'll be starting with the basics, understanding nominal records and the structure of the nominal ledger. This is also ideal if you need to create new nominal codes. Following on from this, we'll examine the chart of accounts, looking at all aspects, including adding new layouts and editing existing ones. Our attention then turns to the management reports themselves, the trial balance, the profit and loss, and of course the balance sheet. We'll explain how to run them, what they show, and most importantly, how the figures calculate. We want you to be confident. On the management report session, one of the most common scenarios we're asked about is where you haven't yet run your year end, but need to generate a profit and loss report for your next financial year. We've got your back with this and have a specific webinar that explores the options you have available, whether it's running reports for your new financial year or even a previous one. The last webinar in the series looks at reconciling your age debtors and age creditor reports at year end, ensuring that the balances agree with the figures on your trial balance and the balance sheet. Of course, this could be done at any time, such as part of your month-end process. So come along and we'll demonstrate what to check and how to run them to ensure everything agrees. If you'd like to attend any or all of these sessions to help develop your knowledge and boost your confidence, then simply head along to sage.co.uk/webinars and register for your free place. These, along with loads of other topics, including how to run your year end, are available. See you soon.
Hi everybody! You might be approaching the end of your financial year and it's the perfect time to get your Sage 50 accounts in order. The year-end process itself is simple. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned pro or if it's your first time, it's just a few steps in the wizard. But before you dive in, there are some important checks and housekeeping tasks that will just make everything run smoothly. Things like archiving your company data just keeps it organised and improves performance. We'll show you how to create an archive and why it's a good habit. Then there's backing up your data, which is essential before making any changes, and we'll share best practice just to ensure your backups are reliable. And avoid accidental postings into a closed period by setting a lock date. It's quick to do and it saves headaches later. We'll also guide you through the year-end wizard as well, step by step, so you can complete the process with confidence. If you need to tidy up older unused records, we'll show you how to do that as well in our Delete Your Records webinar. And then we'll also cover how to clear the audit trail. It can help speed things up and we'll explain when it's appropriate and how to do that safely. So to help you to prepare, we're hosting a series of live webinars throughout January and February. These sessions will give you practical tips and demonstrations so you feel confident about your year end and keep your accounts in great shape. Don't miss this opportunity to start the new year with clean, organised data and peace of mind. Make sure you reserve your spot today at sage.co.uk/webinars, and we look forward to seeing you there. Hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar. I hope everybody's well today and the sun is shining where you are as well. It's lovely here in Newcastle, a bit cold mind. Today we're going to be having a look at inactive records, how to apply this to your records and also how to manage them as well. Now, it does look like we've got about an hour and a half booked in today, which is a slight error. There's no way I could actually make Inactive Records last that long, even if I wanted to. So it will be more around 30 minutes that it'll take to cover Inactive Records today. But if you've not heard me before, I'm Laura, and I'm going to be hosting the webinar today for you. And we've also got Michael in the background as well. Just if you've got any questions around the topic. If you've got anything unrelated, we'll try and cover that too, but we'll stick to prioritising anything around Inactive Records there. So just as usual, before we get started, just those housekeeping rules. So your mic will be muted automatically, but you'll see there is that question icon on the toolbar where you can submit any questions that you may have for us. So make sure that you pop them in there. And as always, I've included the slides in the handout section there, and there are some links at the end which you might find useful. So if you do want to download those, make sure you do that during the session. And as always, there is that printer-friendly version, just if you wanted to print it and make any notes there. So today I'm going to be giving an introduction around making records inactive, what this means, and also how to manage them as well. We'll then have a look at the criteria that needs to be met to flag a record as inactive, and also how you can reactivate a record as well if it has been flagged as inactive, if you want to start using it again. Following that, I'll go through a series of demonstrations within the program so you can see how it works and what it looks like too. And before the end of the session, if we've got any further questions to answer, we'll get those answered too. Anything we don't get covered though, we would obviously reach out to you via email after it's ended. But I'll cover at the end there'll be further support as well. So it's a nice, simple feature in Active Records, hence why it won't take an hour and a half to cover it there. So it helps keep your accounts nice and tidy, and it's a great alternative to deleting your records, which some people just don't want to do. And that's absolutely fine because it is an optional task on there. But making inactive or making your records inactive, it just helps keeps those lists more manageable. So things like your customers, suppliers, nominal codes, bank accounts and products. These are all things that if you're not using them, if they meet the criteria, you can check a box just to make them inactive. So as you can see from the screen there is a checkbox to show or hide records from your list. So you can switch between having them visible or just in the background out of view. So for customers example, you might have some which were just a one-off who you've dealt with a while ago, you haven't dealt with them for ages. You can flag them as inactive. Means down the line, if you do need to reactivate it again, you are going to use them again, you can untick it and it just becomes active again. Now you can flag records individually or simultaneously. Batch changes are available in standard and the professional level of the software, but we'll have a look at it. We'll go through it when we have a look at the demonstration. So why flag them as inactive? Now, you might have records that you want to delete. For example, a customer who you no longer deal with, there's criteria to deleting records, such as the activity needs to be free of transactions. And the way to do that is to clear your audit trail. Now, if you've ever cleared the audit trail before, you'll know that you can't just clear the audit trail for one particular record. This would be across the board using a date that you've selected. And that means it would clear all transactions that meet the criteria up to a date that you've chosen. So if there's a balance on the record and you can't delete it, the alternative would be to mark it as inactive. Like I said before, some people don't like deleting records, and that's completely fine. It's completely optional, but you might just want to see the records that you deal with on a regular basis and say not ones that you've used 2 years ago and haven't used since. Historically, to hide old records, you might have renamed the account to do not use and then applied a filter to filter them out of view. Not something that you would really need to do now. You can just check a box and hide the inactive records out of view. So we'll pop into my program and we'll go through a bit of a demonstration, have a look and see what that looks like there. Just open up my screen there. There it is there. So that's my list of customers there. So if we have a look, first of all, so you can see in my list of customers here, I'll just highlight a few to show you. So I've got some with zero balances. I might want to flag them as inactive. I've not used them for a while on there. So I might have a customer that I've not dealt with for years, and I might just want to mark it as inactive. Okay. So I'll just clear those just by clicking on clear at the top, just to unselect them. And we'll have a look at this one first of all. So I'm just going to double click on it just to open up the record. And see, it's opened up the record nicely there. If we go to the activity first of all, we can see that there's nothing on here. We could delete it if we want to. There's no transactions on there, but I might not want to delete them, and that's fine as well. If we go to the details tab on the left hand side, which is the first window that it opens when you open up a customer record, there's a little checkbox just under account details and it says inactive. If I just click on the little question mark, I'll just pull that over so you can see that. And it just says to set the customer as inactive to prevent any further activity on the account. You can exclude inactive customers from ledgers and selection lists. So that's just what that's telling you in there. If I tick the little box on there, I can click save, and it just takes me back to a blank customer record now. Now, if I close that just to show you, so it looks like absolutely nothing's happened at the moment. So Amy's Antiques is still showing in there. But what we can do is, along this top bar here, we can right click anywhere and you can see you've got loads of different things that you can actually add in column wise in here. And at the top, we've got one that's called inactive. So now if I select that one, it'll give me an extra column and it tells me now that this one here is inactive. Still shown in my list at the moment. And I'm going to come on to that in just a minute there as well, because we can move them out of the way. Another thing that we can have a look at is we've got some more, obviously, customers in here that we can mark as inactive. One of the criteria is, and we'll pick this one here, Dave's Diner. If I just go to the activity on this one, just bring up the details on it. Just having a little bit of a think about it. I think my computer actually needs a bit of a restart because it's been going quite slow. So there is transactions on here, or there was a moment ago. Let me just see if I can go back into it again. Just reopen it again there. Go into the activity on here. There, those are my transactions there. It's going a bit slow today. I do apologize. So we can see here we've got transactions on here, okay? And we've also got a couple of transactions which are outstanding. So we've got a sales invoice and we've got a sales credit note on there. Now they haven't been allocated to one another. We've got a couple of transactions here. Those are allocated. Those are absolutely fine. But we've got two unallocated transactions. Now, if I go to the details tab on here, if I try and mark this one as inactive just by ticking the box, I just click save, and it brings up a message that tells me this customer could not be placed as inactive because there are unallocated credits or payments on account or sales payments. And there's a little that you can click on here. This will take you to the help center as well. Gives you sort of the guides on our help center around inactive records, but it tells you why it can't be marked as inactive. So at that point, you could come out of here, have a look at the activity and say, right, we've got transactions that are not allocated to one another. We need to sort that out before we can make that inactive. And it's just a case of allocating those two payments together on there. I can then mark it as inactive. So the way just to do that on there, if we go to customer receipt at the top, I'm just going to choose my customer, which was Dave's Diner. It's going to bring it up on there. It is going quite slow. I missed the apostrophe out. And if we just pay them in full, so at the minute these are outstanding, so the balance of the account is zero, but it's outstanding. So I'm just going to pay these in full just to show you that we can then mark that as inactive. So I'm going to save that, allocate that credit note to the invoice. I'm going to double click on it again, and I'm going to click inactive, and I'm going to save it now. And you see there's no message brought up. Close that out of there. We've now made that or marked it as inactive. So that's one of the criteria on there. So you can have transactions on the actual the customer or the supplier. You can have transactions on there, unlike when you're trying to delete them. But if you have anything that's unallocated, it won't let you make or mark that as inactive. You can make batch changes as well. So if you're on standard or professional level and you've got quite a few that you want to mark as inactive on there, you can either go through it and highlight a number of them. So that one's already inactive. So say I wanted to make these ones, these have all got zero balances on there. See, I was going to make or mark those as inactive. I can go to batch changes at the top. Now, batch changes, if you can't see it, if you're using professional or if you're using the standard level of the software, you can right click anywhere along here and you can see all the items that you can add in, or if you're not using some, you can take them out. So if I untick batch changes, take the little tick out, you can see that disappears from there. To pop it back in, just right click and just select batch changes again. You also might not be able to see it if I just make that smaller. So if my resolution's made smaller on there, if I got a smaller screen of using a small laptop, it might just be under the new or edit icon there. If it looks like it's grayed out as well, it's just because you haven't selected anything to make a batch change for. So if it looks like where we've got duplicate, you can't click on that, it's just because you haven't got anything highlighted. I'll just make that a bit bigger. So I'm going to click on batch changes. And what it'll do is it'll open up a blank customer record for me. And I can now tick the inactive checkbox to make all those customers that meet the criteria. I can tick that and I'm going to click save. And it gives us a message just to make sure that you've chosen to make changes for multiple records. Do we want to go ahead with that? Yes, I do. So I'm just going to say yes to that. And we will get a message that pops up and drag it across. It's just telling us that not all accounts could be set as inactive. Only the accounts that meet the criteria have been set as inactive. So it must mean that I've got some customers in there who again have got some unallocated transactions. So I'm just going to say OK to that. And we can see straight away which ones have been marked as inactive. So these ones here have been marked as inactive. Okay. So it must mean that we've got transactions on these ones that for whatever reason, if they've got unallocated transactions, we can't mark it as inactive. So then it would be a case of going through them and just making sure that everything is allocated on there. Again, that's not available on the essentials level, but you can go in on a one-by-one basis and mark them as inactive if you want to on there. So with regards to this, obviously you've got your inactive column, which you can show which ones are inactive. Now, if you want to hide them out of view, because at the moment they're still in the list, we might want to move these out the way. On the right-hand side, we've got an include inactive checkbox. Now, if I just untick that, what that does is it just removes them. So they're still there in the background. We can tick it again just to pull them back through, and we can hide them again. So you can see it's quite quick to do on there. Once you've marked them as inactive, it's nice and quick just to reactivate them, bring them back into your list of data again there as well. Really easy to reactivate them as well. There's a couple of different ways to reactivate them. So it might be just that you can either make batch changes again. So if you've got the option for batch changes, when you click on batch changes, it'll open up the window again. You'll notice that it's blank. What you need to do is just toggle it on, toggle it off, just so it activates it in the background. When we click save, again, just that message just asking us if we want to make that change, which we do. So I'm just going to say yes, give it a moment to think about it. And those ones have now been made active again. Another way you can do that is, say, Amy's Antiques, we're going to enter an invoice for that one. So I'm just going to click clear to unhighlight everything. So say I wanted to create an invoice for this one. I've completely forgotten that it's inactive. If I go to batch invoice at the top and I go and select that particular customer, it gives us a message that just says the customer selected has been set as inactive. To continue, you must reactivate the customer. Do you want to reactivate the customer now? And I can just say yes to that. And at that point, that's the customer reactivated. I don't need to go back into their record and tick the box. It's reactivated it for me there. And then I can just continue popping that invoice on. So if I close out of there, I don't want to save the changes. You can see now that inactive tick box has gone on there as well. So really quick just to make them active again. It's just the same in suppliers as well. So if we pop into suppliers on here, exactly the same sort of criteria. So we can double click on it to open up the supplier record. Just make that a bit bigger. And it's just the inactive tick box on there for it. Clicking save, closing out of it. It's marked as inactive. And I've already got the column in there as well. So we can see that. We can hide them from the list as well and bring them back You've also got the option of batch changes there as well. So just like customers, you can make batch changes to them as well on there. So it's just the same for reactivating as well. You can either go back into it, just clear that, we can either go back into it on here and just untick the box, save it again, or you can just post a transaction to that particular supplier and that'll reactivate it. It'll give you that message just letting you know that it's inactive and you can reactivate it there as well. Same for products and services. We're going to products and services on here. So you can do exactly the same in here. We can just mark them in inactive that way. So just by highlighting them, double clicking on it just to open it up. And we've got the inactive checkbox there, just exactly the same. So there's no sort of difference for that one on there either. Just come back out of there. Again, you can exclude them from your list at the top here as well. So there's quite a few different things that you can do. You can run through them. You've got your inactive column in there as well and just hide them in the background. Great if you're not wanting to delete anything. And then nominal codes as well. You can also make nominal codes inactive. So you've got your customers, suppliers, products and services, and your nominal codes as well. I'm going to come on to bank accounts in a bit there, but nominal codes, just the same. So if we just go and have a look for one in here, obviously we'd need to not have that balance on there for it. But if we just pick this one here, for example, double click, looks a little bit different. It's just in this area here. So I can tick that, click save. A little think about it, close that on there for it. And it's just because I don't have, if we have a look there, so we don't have anything shown in the inactive column. And that's just because I don't have that ticked up here. So if I tick that, show inactive, pops back in there for me. Okay. If you don't want them in the list, mark them as inactive and just untick that and it'll hide them for you. Just a way of showing the data that you use on a regular basis. Anything that you're not using, you can mark it as inactive, hide it out the way there, but you can bring it back just by clicking that. And like I say, you've got that in customers, suppliers, you've got it in your products and services and your nominal codes as well. So before we go into bank accounts, I'm just going to pop back to the slides because there is one thing that I want to just go over with regards to the criteria as well, and then the bank accounts too. So like I say, there is criteria for records such as customers and suppliers, nominal codes, your bank accounts and your products and services. Then they need to meet that to be marked as inactive. And it will vary depending on the record that you're marking as inactive. So I've got customers here as an example. So the first one that we looked at, the balance needed to be 0 on there. There also needs to be no unallocated or associated transactions with that record there as well. So we saw with one of them there, we had 2 transactions. The balance was 0, but because we had an invoice and a credit note that hadn't been allocated together, we got that error message, or the information message, I should say, that just let us know we couldn't mark it as inactive because there was transactions there that weren't allocated together. So that's one of the criteria there. So once you've allocated them, then you saw in that demonstration, you're free to mark them as inactive and then hide them out of view if you want to. If there's recurring items for the record, which you haven't ended or which haven't ended yet, you can't mark it as inactive either because obviously you've got recurring items there going against it. So you can either remove the recurring items or you can just let that come to an end. And once that's finished or there's no recurring items left on the item, you can then mark that as inactive. And less common reasons would be if the account is the default customer account for to record all appeal transactions. It can't be marked as inactive that way. So before you can make the account inactive, you would need to select another customer account to use as the appeal account. And also, if you can't flag the record as inactive, it brings up the information message with a little link, which we just saw there, and that takes you to the help center. So not only does it give you the reason as to why you can't mark it as inactive, but it also will take you to a link on the help center, which for that particular reason, it was for unallocated transactions. But I just wanted to cover them there too. But there is a link on the slide there that you can see, which covers, because obviously there's different criteria for different records and you don't want to sit and listen to me list them all, but for records such as your products and your services and things like that, everything's on our help centre guide there. But for bank accounts, there is one sort of common query on there when trying to mark a bank account as inactive, and that's because it's a ratio account. Now, a ratio account, that's just a measure of your company's short-term liquidity, and it compares the debit and the credit balances, and it shows the net balance. So before you can make the account inactive, you must remove it from the list of ratio accounts, which you can do by going into nominal codes, just clicking on ratio at the top and selecting the account and just deleting it from the list there. And I am going to show you that. Don't worry, I'm not just going to sort of rattle through it and tell you how you can do that. We'll have a look in a demonstration in a moment there. But I have included a link to a guide there on our help centre. Just covers ratio accounts if you did want more information on them. But we'll pop back into my programme there and we'll just have a look at what I mean by that. So if I just go into we'll go into my bank accounts first of all, and we'll just have a look. So I created a bank account called Laura, just because I wasn't very inventive. And so say this is the one that I want to mark as inactive. So I'm just going to double click on it, just so it opens up that bank record on there. And I'm just going to tick the inactive tick box there and click save to it. And I get a message, which I'll just drag across. And again, this is the message or the box I was telling you about. So it tells you why you can't mark it as inactive. It's a ratio account, but also gives us more information, which is a link to our help centre there as well. So we know that this one can't be marked as inactive because it's a ratio account. So I'm just going to click OK to that, close out of that. Don't want to save the changes. I'm going to go to nominal codes. And along the top here, next to your management reports, you've got ratio. So if I click on that, drag that over, everything opens on my other screen, and do apologise. And you can see you've got a list of your ratio accounts in here. And we can see that Laura is one of them. And what we can do is we can just click onto that one and we can just delete it, just remove it from this list of ratio accounts. I'm not using that bank account anymore. I want to mark it as inactive. I don't need it showing in here. So I'm just going to delete it from here. Just asks if I wish to, am I sure I want to do that? Yes, I do. It's now removed it from my list of the ratio accounts there. And I'm just going to save that. We can go back into our bank accounts now. We can double click on it. Brings it up, it seems to be. I don't want to jinx it and say it's working a bit faster now. Can click on mark as inactive and save it. And it just has a little bit of a think about it. And you can see it's brought us back to a blank record there. So close out of that. We can now see we've got that in the inactive column. So I can leave it there just so I can see that it's inactive if I want to. But if I just want it out the way, I could untick include inactive and it will just hide it in the background there. So it's still there if I need it. So, you know, in however long, and I think actually I need that bank account again, I'm going to start using that. I can just go back into it, include the inactive, and I can mark it as inactive again. So that's the beauty of making them inactive rather than deleting them there. So that's sort of I told you it wouldn't take an hour and a half to go through it on there, but that's how we mark those records as inactive, how you can hide them out of your lists as well on there. So it's quite handy if you're just wanting to sort of hide them out of view. I've included some links on here as how we have throughout the actual slides there as well. But there's some links on here just to our help centre, which basically covers what we've gone over there. So flagging records as inactive and reasons why you can't flag them as inactive as well on there, and also flagging multiple records as inactive if you've got that batch changes option on there as well. There's also a link to our help centre for anything else on there too. Keep this open a while longer. It looks like I don't think we've got anything else sort of coming through on there for it. If you do have any questions, make sure you pop them in there. I'll keep it open just for a few moments longer. But you can also access our webinars page at sage.co.uk/webinars. As always, all the past recordings are free to view in there, and you can sign up for our upcoming webinars. The link's just on the slide. And I think I've said this before, but all of our March webinars are now out there as well, so you can go and have a look. We've got a new badging series coming out, along with covering bank feeds again on there too. And if you haven't heard about our community hub as well, I popped this on here too, which is just an online forum where you can share ideas and things with other users. You can go on there and it's free to join. You can ask questions. You've got Sage experts on there who are answering questions along with other users as well. So if you might read a question and think, actually, I'm going to pop an answer on for that because I know that. But you can keep up to date with what's happening and it's open 24/7 as well. There's just a link on there which takes you straight to the hub too. So that's just on the slide as well. And I've also included an additional survey as well, which I hope you won't mind taking a quick look at. Just helps us shape our learning around what matters to you most on there too. It's a QR code which you can scan with your phone, or there is a link on there as well, which will just take you straight to it if you're downloading those slides there too. But that brings us to the end of today's session. So I hope that you found that useful. As always, you're going to get a survey when leaving today's session. So I'd love it if you could leave us any feedback, any comments around what else you would like to see on there as well. I'm just going to pop into the questions just to see if anything else has come through as well there. So I'll just open that up. I think there's only one question coming. What's the best way to get rid of outstanding customer balances when you know they're not going to pay and you want to set them as inactive? That's more going to be needing to clear the balance down on there. So are you talking about sort of writing off the balance on there? I might pop you an email afterwards just to get a bit more information from you if that's all right. So I've got your email address on there. So I'll pop you an email just to see exactly a bit more information around that because there's a few different ways of doing that, if that's okay there. But what I'll do is I don't think any more questions have come in apart from that one on there. So I'll end the session now. So thank you for attending. And Breege, I'll pop you an email over now, okay? But thank you very much for your time today. Bye for now.